The Hawks for real, Josh?
No. No. Not at all.
We're about to find out now, aren't we?
We are.
Had a lot of comments coming in yesterday, acting like we've hot taked this Atlanta team all series and all postseason, despite the fact that they've been big dogs most games. I'm Dave Loughran.
Yeah.
What's going on? It's the NBA strategy show presented by No House Advantage. Hit up your boy on the Twitters at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. Right there. Give me a follow. Say hi. I'm always happy to go back and forth. So is my boy Josh Engleman. He's back after a couple-day hiatus here. Glad to have you back, man. Hope everything's going okay on your end.
Things are good now. Happy to be back. I'm excited to talk a little bit. It's weird. We don't really take like a ton of time off, generally speaking. We don't really have weekends in the same sort of way that the days just blend together. And you
work holidays.
Right. You just get used to talking about sports every single day. And when you miss it for a day or two, I feel like I haven't seen sports in weeks. And it's been like 36 hours.
No question. Man, when I took off those few days for paternity leave, I think I took a week off. I came back and I was like, what is basketball? You know, you just a lot. I remember looking through rotations because mind you, it's March. So crazy things happen and just had no real idea. You have to actually, now granted, in your case, it's at least a little easier that there's only a couple games, but I know exactly what you mean. And, I think everyone's glad to have you back for sure. Hopefully you had some kind people reach out on Twitter. I believe you did.
I did. Thank you to everybody for real. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Sure,
it always means a lot to know that anybody cares.
Yeah. Oh, no question, man. Hey, look, we got good people around. I say it every single day. We got some good people that hang out in these shows and have become part of the Awesemo family, but I'm about to piss some of you off right now. So buckle your seatbelts. The Atlanta Hawks are a very resilient team. Trae Young is a stud. And we're going to talk about the whole Trae Young and Luka thing before we get into tonight's game between the Suns and the Clippers. We have to. There are a couple of people that brought it up on Twitter. I think it makes for a good conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Just let me finish here. And they had a wildly impressive win last night. They had a good series win over the Sixers, although the Sixers are trash. But Hawks fans at this point have become absolutely intolerable. I not all of you. So don't say, oh my God, I'm a Hawks fan. He's talking about me. No, not necessarily. I'm talking about the people that act like we are, for some reason, massive Atlanta Hawks haters when we say, they should lose this game when they're 8-point dogs on the road and monster dogs to lose. We're not saying anything hot. We're not saying anything crazy. All you're saying is that, you're 8-point dogs. You're almost double-digit dogs. It's a good possibility you lose this game. No one's shitting on your Hawks. No one hates your Hawks. No one's saying they're bad, okay? If you weren't an Atlanta Hawks fan, you wouldn't be saying any of this. Stop taking everything as a sign of disrespect and look at it from an analysis perspective. You'd probably be saying the same thing if you weren't a ride or die Hawks fan. Sorry, Josh. Had to get that out of the way.
No, you're right. It's not Look, as much as people want to think they have opinions on sports, the best opinion is always going to be the betting lines that take the most volume. So the sides and totals for individual games are the most accurate predictor of the future. Just because something doesn't happen doesn't mean it wasn't the right prediction. And we're going to see that in game 2. What's the line today? What's the line for game 2 in comparison to game 1? Do you know?
Yeah, the Bucks are 7.5-point favorites.
In game 1?
No, in game 8, they were 8 or game 1. Sorry, they were 8-point favorites. Now it's moved to half point. They're still 7.5-point favorites. So yeah,
that explains everything that you should need to know. There's no Hawks disrespect. If there was more interest in the Hawks, that line wouldn't be 7.5. It's not just us. It's just how this works. People look, teams win and lose all the time. There can only be one winner in each game. There can only be one loser, but we can't take extremes out of the Hawks winning a game by 3. Like in theory, that game's a coin flip. That is the more interesting piece, that it was close that direction. But I can't get up in arms about this. The Milwaukee Bucks are still the favorites in this series. If you think that the line for game 2 is dumb, if you think the series line for game 2 or for the rest of the series is dumb, congratulations. You are probably going to print some money.
Yeah.
Or you're just not right.
Exactly. And I'm willing, it's not willing or unwilling. I'm very much willing to admit that I could be wrong on this. I could, because you know why? I could be wrong on every single play, every single pick that I make, right? Yeah. Not many people had the Sixers losing to the Hawks in the second round. Not many people had the Bucks losing to Atlanta in game 1. Or I'm sorry, you know what I meant? Losing to Atlanta in round 1 or round 2, and then losing to game 1 to the Hawks. But it is the way it is. Stop taking it as a sign of disrespect or an insult. That's not what it is. No one's shitting on your Hawks. It's a conversation. And if Rimpak's talking about potential blowout risk, answering a question, well, you have to consider all angles of it. Could we have considered a Hawks blowout over the Bucks? I guess, but I would have been a lot more willing to do so if they were 8-point favorites on the other end of that game. It's simple analysis here, and sometimes it doesn't work out. And the Hawks, let's be fair, Josh, have defied the odds all season, all postseason long. They have played well. Nate McMillan has done a very good job coaching them. John Collins went from having a highly pedestrian regular season to playing a very good postseason. And Trae Young looks like a legitimately elite player right now. So, and then you got Herter knocking down monster back-to-back. Like, things have happened for this Hawks team, and this isn't an insult. They've got some magic on their side right now. It's kind of resembles last year's Miami Heat run as well.
It does. It feels super similar to that, both in like the weirdness of how the playoffs are playing out and just this team that keeps winning, I guess, against the Bucks that you don't totally expect. I think that the Bucks right the ship. I still think the Bucks are the most likely team to win this series. On the breakfast menu, which you can check out every day that I am able to record that video, I have Chris Middleton to win the Finals MVP as a very small bet. So I'm going to be cheering for that one. He's going to need to not go 0 for however many threes he took yesterday. That's for sure. Otherwise, it's not going to matter. I can't get up in arms over like a team winning one game. They're still the underdogs. If you don't think that that's true, congratulations. You have found a way to make some money, evidently.
Yeah, and you should be betting that money line in game 2. Hey, screw betting the spread. If you have that type of respect right now on the Hawks, good for you. You get them at plus 280 on the money line. There's some money to be made there for sure. Hey, R says in chat that Ben Simmons' worst rookie of the year maybe ever. I suggest you Google Michael Carter Williams. Yeah,
let's look. We can't keep doing this Ben Simmons stuff, man. We got to stop acting like he's not actually good at one side of the ball.
I only brought up a comment because Michael Carter Williams has always and will always be just a bona fide bench player.
Yeah.
And he won rookie of the year because he was on a shit team.
Ben Simmons is unquestionably an elite defensive player. And that was put in no doubt whatsoever throughout the playoffs. We could litigate this offensive stuff over and over and over again. There's not much to say there. He's exceptional defensively. There is no other opinion to have.
No, there is one opinion. He sucks offensively.
Yeah, 100%. But even you were like, well, yeah, he's incredible defensively.
Oh my God. He's a first team come on. We don't need to get into, all I'm saying is there are a lot worse. There are definitely a lot worse plays. And I will say this much. There's no question that last series has tainted his reputation even just immensely, because he's like a 2 or 3 time all-star already. And it's hard for me to take up for Ben Simmons right now. It really is. But I'm at least able to separate one from the other. The problem is, if you can't show up in big games in the postseason, I don't care as much about your regular season. And I am willing to put those two together and say, listen, maybe this tainted what you've done, but in a way it really should. If you can't show up in big scenarios when you have a clear, not easy, but an easier path to the finals, you deserve a lot of criticism for that. That's all.
I agree.
Anyway, Luka Doncic and Trae Young. The trade was made on draft day. I'm asking you this question because I think after what we've seen, recency bias is a crazy thing, Josh. It truly is. After what we've seen, there will be a lot of people that say, well, I don't know. And maybe the Hawks did make the right move, or maybe it was a lateral move, drafting Luka and then trading him to the Mavericks for Trae Young. What says you, after what we've seen in this postseason, is it still clear-cut, undeniable, definitively Luka Doncic over Trae Young? No questions asked.
Yes, it is.
Tell me why.
And to be clear, that doesn't make Trae Young bad. That doesn't.
Oh, you're shitting on Trae Young and the Hawks, right. Josh. Here we go.
No, Trae Young is fantastic. A top 10 offensive player in basketball, bar none. No doubt about it. I love him. I think he's really, really good. Had a fantastic year. I just you can't do the opposite here. And the biggest piece of this for me is, even if we want to get to the point where we say that they are equals offensively, I don't think that they are, but let's just say for a second that we think that they are equals offensively. It is close to impossible for them to ever be equals defensively, because Luka Doncic isn't built like Trae Young. There are things that Luka will always be able to do defensively that Trae Young can never do. If a bigger guy wants to take Luka into the post, he's going to grab in the opposite scenario, that guy's going to grab Trae Young and the ball together and put them both in the basket. There are size advantages that you cannot make up for on the basketball court. It's a same sort of scenario for Damian Lillard. There are things that you will just not physically be able to do. Luka isn't built like a point guard. He's built like a small forward. And that is a chasm defensively, just by default.
Okay. And one other thing I'll throw out there. Trae Young, I mean, listen, kid's amazing, right? I'm still taking Luka. And here's one of the reasons. The Atlanta Hawks have had players step up. And I mean, Trae Young was 5 for 23 in game 7, right? And then in game 1 last night, he was remarkable. I mean, not just as a scorer, but as a passer, made some insane circus passes. Excellent. But he had modest scoring totals in 4 of 7 games against the 76ers.
Why.
What's that?
I wonder why.
What are you going to say, Ben Simmons? Yeah. But then people will bring up that last.
Damn right.
Yeah. But then you had Kevin Huerter rip off game, huge game winning shots and big games. You had just other guys show up, whether it was Danilo Gallinari, whether it was Lou Williams late in the game. Name me one time in that series, and maybe you can, Josh, maybe I'm misremembering here. Name me one time in that series between the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Clippers, which went to 7 games almost entirely because of Luka. Name me one time that someone other than Luka picked up some weight and shouldered the load and crossed them or brought them across the finish line. One single game, one single moment. Can you do it?
I think Tim Hardaway had like a decent game in games, some such shit in the middle, but no, I can't.
Kristaps Porzingis is supposed to be your number 2. Yeah, awful. No. What was there? What did they do at all to give him any help and still went to 7 games? So people are looking, and this is the problem. Can't put things in context. People are looking at how far the Clippers went into the postseason and how far the Hawks are into the postseason, ignoring the fact that Luka Doncic almost by himself brought the Dallas Mavericks to a Game 7 against Kawhi Leonard and a Paul George-led Clippers team that is significantly deeper. So I can't look at it like who went further this season. Yeah, it's very tough.
That's so stupid. So stupid.
Let me ask you
something.
something.
Oh my God.
If you put Trae Young, it's a hypothetical, of course.
It's like saying Trae Young's better than LeBron James and Kevin Durant because those guys are at home now. That's insanity.
Right. If you put, and I'd love to hear from chat on this one. This will be a real true test of your dedication, your how do I say it? The sentiment that you have towards Trae or Luka. Like, really answer this objectively, not as a Hawks fan, not as anything else, just as someone that likes basketball and understands the game. Josh, if you put Trae on the Mavericks, how many games do they go against the Clippers? It's, of course, a hypothetical. If you put Doncic on the Hawks, where are they now?
The Mavs go home slightly earlier than they did before, and the Hawks are bigger favorites than they are right now. Look, here's the easiest way to do it. The line is 7.5 right now, right? For game 2. If you just took out Trae Young and put Luka on the team, it's probably 7 or maybe 6.5.
Okay.
That should explain it easily. I didn't get to these points before, but I have it up in front of me now. Luka and Trae, exact same true shooting this year, basically the same from 3, the exact same assist rates, massive. Those are all the same. This is where the size comes into play. Luka has a 23% defensive rebounding rate, Trae Young 10%. He basically could never really improve that because of his size. Luka blocked 1.5% of shots. That's a neutral outcome. Trae Young's 0.4%. Again, his size is never going to allow him to do those types of things. It's not an indictment on Trae Young. He just can't, like, if he's trying to fill up a cup, his cup is just smaller. He can never put more in than he can because of his size. It's not a problem. It's just that means that Trae Young has to be doing something somewhere else in order to close that gap. And it's really hard to do something offensively better than Luka Doncic is doing right now.
I agree. It's a good way to put it. And Ryan Alderman with we need a siren for egregious comment of the day. He said, regardless of how he's been playing, Luka has Kristaps Porzingis, and he's better than anyone Trae has, and it's not even close. I mean, that could not be further from the truth.
He should be.
Yeah, but he wasn't. Like,
no.
You know what I mean? That's like me saying Ben Simmons is better than anybody. Just, I don't know, name another team that had a decent enough point guard. Like, he wasn't. Yeah. Ben Simmons was a liability in that series. Kristaps Porzingis was too. He sucked, man. I get what you're saying. Like, if you're looking at it on a broader scale and saying Kristaps Porzingis and his resume and what he should be able to do better, I totally agree with you. But to say that form, that iteration of Kristaps Porzingis is better than having even John Collins or Clint Capella, from what I did totally disagree.
Oh yeah. At this point in time, if the Mavs could have swapped out Porzingis for John Collins, I think they're probably still playing in the playoffs right now.
I would think so.
Yeah. Which is neither here nor there. Like, the dream scenario of Kristaps Porzingis is this 1-2 punch with Luka Doncic. That hasn't really existed outside of 5 games in the bubble last year.
Right. Yeah, I know. He says Kristaps is an all-star caliber player. Who is for the Hawks? Dude, he played like he was a bench. It doesn't matter what he has been or what caliber he should be.
I got this. If that's the conversation you want to have, the Hawks have no all-star caliber players. Trae Young did not make the all-star game this year. Now, I think that is preposterous. However, you can't be calling all-star player. You can't use it in that example and not also then say, oh, by the way, Trae Young was not an all-star and Luka Doncic was.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You can't have both sides of that argument.
Because Trae Young's playing like one of the best players in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
If you watch that series between Dallas and the Clippers, you'd understand that Kristaps Porzingis was a complete non-factor. I mean, he Houdini'd his way out of every single game and almost every single possession, outside of a few throwdowns or alley-oops or baseline cuts where where Doncic just got it to him without any traffic around him. I mean, there's no way that Kristaps Porzingis helped them in that series. If he played even marginally better, if he played even marginally better, Dallas probably wins that in 6, to be honest with you. But he didn't.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Fizzy for facts says Luka's way too ball dominant. Him and Trae Young have the ball basically the same amount of time.
No, but dude,
they should be. They should be. They have to be.
What are you gonna give it to Dorian Finney-Smith and let him bring it up? He has to be. There's nobody else on that team that can operate as the primary ball handler. I've seen.
Can you imagine saying that as a negative and not a positive?
Exactly. You want him to be.
Imagine being like, yo, Michael Jordan's too ball dominant.
It's nuts. What do you want him playing off the ball? So you want him playing off the ball so Maxi Kleber can direct traffic? Like, you don't want that. You don't want
35% usage, 70th percentile true shooting, and a 40+% assist rate. Yeah, give that goddamn guy the ball every single possession. That's the only way it's going to work.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Who are we trying to give the ball to that's going to make going to result? All right, we got to get Trey Burke in there. What are we doing here? These guys should have the ball always,
yeah.
Every time. No one is. It's impossible. No. I don't understand. If you're Luka Doncic, the idea of giving the ball up to Jalen Brunson or Tim Hardaway Jr., like, no. The Dallas Mavericks last year, with Luka being significantly ball dominant, had the greatest offensive rating in the history of basketball.
Right. Sean says one man can't beat you. Yeah, but neither can Finney-Smith and Kleber and Porzingis. Like, he had to do that. Anyway.
By the way, one man can beat you. We've watched LeBron do it for years and years and years at a time. If J.R. Smith isn't a complete moron, one man literally beats the Warriors in game 1 of that finals, and he still had a chance. And it took his own teammates to stop him from doing that. It's the playoffs. One man beats you all the time. The entire game changes in the playoffs.
Aaron Glucks, and then here we go. We're getting started. Says the problem with Luka is he needs to sit back and let Cauley Stein operate out of the post like the Joker. Yeah, exactly. Like, not. Can you imagine? Oh my God, I can't wrap my head around it sometimes.
I feel like we're watching different games.
Hit that thumbs up. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the show. We just have too much fun here to start it off. Finally get Josh back. You were only out for one day on a strategy show. You missed 2 live before locks, but
yeah. Honestly, I missed the ones that I would want to miss.
Yeah. Well, hit that thumbs up for Josh coming back here on the show. This is the last one we'll do together this week because I'm off tomorrow going to my brother-in-law's wedding, so that should be a blast. But if you enjoy this, some of the banter and then the analysis, maybe a little entertainment along the way, it helps us in a huge way when you do that. The algorithm on YouTube, you guys know about that. I hate having to ask, but it's just part of the game. Hit that subscribe button too. We're working our way up to 60,000. Let's get to 56,000 or 56,000 first. Make that slow climb. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe. And if you want to join the YouTube channel here, all you got to do, hit that join button. Check it out. You get the badges, the loyalty badges. They increase over time. Cool colors to get up to the Awesemo gradient towards the end. I'm working my way there. The emojis. And of course, we'll always give you priority questions, and we got some other things in the work too. I keep saying that. I promise we do. We even talked about it yesterday. We're just trying to think of something that makes the most sense. So let's get started. Thumbs up, hit that subscribe. And Josh, we should probably say hi to our sponsor quickly, No House Advantage.
Yeah, we should. I already said hi to them, but you guys don't know it yet because that video hasn't dropped. By the way, contenders are coming out after this. I had a slow start to my morning. It was hard to pry myself out of bed, but they're recorded. I just have to edit them, so they'll be coming out in a couple seconds. But yeah, what up, No House Advantage? You have a very juicy prop out there right now, and I'm going to spoil my breakfast menu video. Check out the campaign props. We're going to get there in a little bit, but he's projected like Chris Paul isn't going to play today, so you might want to look at some unders.
On No House Advantage, that's the prop they've got on him?
He's got 22.5 points plus rebounds plus assists or something along those lines, which is not at all where I have him right now. So to keep a look there and keep a look at over on Ivica Zubac. I'm spoiling the video for Ben and I, but you get the real picks before that.
Yeah. The Zubac prop is actually the one that I want. Are you talking about points or
6.5?
Yeah.
6.5. Yeah.
Yeah. We have him projected at 10.5 over at Awesemo. And the thing about No House Advantage that you will love is, first of all, it's a peer-to-peer player prop platform where, unlike salary caps and all of that stuff where you're making lineups from players with salaries, you're very simply building your lineups with player props. You put the ones you like the most at the top, they get the most points. The ones you're most confident in, the ones you're least confident in go at the bottom. So if you don't hit, well, you don't lose nearly as many points. Same style, tournament format. It's a really cool format. But like Josh and I were saying, we're talking about projections. We have the player prop tool over at Awesemo, totally free. But we also have a No House Advantage player prop tool, free every single day of the week and the year. So if you check that out, you'll see the props for No House Advantage and our projected props for all of these players. And we have the optimal lineups tool over for No House Advantage, strictly for No House Advantage. Like, you got free tools at your disposal every single day. And if you use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, you get $20 on your first deposit when you sign up using the promo code Awesemo. Look, the lines, they stay stale, or they get stale. Sorry. They don't change throughout the day. They are static. So while other books are taking money on one, a lot of it, and it moves it, they don't move. Take advantage. Use that as an edge. Use the player prop tool. Get the sign up or deposit bonus. Use the optimal lineups tool. All of this stuff totally free. Like, other than depositing onto the site, there's nothing else that you have to pay for to have all of the access to the best information on this site that not everybody knows about. So check out No House Advantage, sponsor of the strategy show, and use that promo code Awesemo. All right. And hey, Cody Haney, welcome to Team Awesemo, brother. That's a beautiful badge you got there. It's going to look different a month from now. All right, man. Phoenix and the LA Clippers. We get Chris Paul back, but still no Kawhi Leonard. The Suns laying 1 point on the road still. If Paul was out, the Clippers would definitely be slight favorites here. 221.5 total. I guess the first question is Chris Paul's impact in his return. Would you be laying money on the Hawks or the Suns tonight to win this game?
Well, I think that people should be watching the breakfast menu when that gets posted to find out my true thoughts on this game. But since I love the strategy show people so much, I will say,
yeah, this is your roots, fella. You better not. Gee,
good work on the pause, man.
Got
you got
that strong mute, right?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I actually recommended a bet Clippers money line today at even money.
Me too. I like that as well. Look, I tweeted it the other day. Suns up 2-0. Clippers got them right where they want them, Josh. They've come back 0-2 to win it in both. Now, Grant, I'm joking. I'm not using that type of historical data to predict what's going to happen in this one. But I do think still, even with Chris Paul returning, that the Clippers, listen, last game was a 1.1 possession game, right? Controversial one at that. It was in Phoenix. This is not as lopsided a matchup as you think. Game one, I know Paul was out. Game one decided by 6 points, but the Clippers come back to the Staples Center. I like them today as well. Give me your explanation, your reasoning for why you like them, because that's what matters.
So it's a couple things. One, just naturally, you feel like the Clippers can get back into the series. They have to this is sort of must win in that if they go down 3-0, you can't really expect the 4-0 sweep coming back on the other side. I just don't think the Clippers have the firepower. It's one thing when you get LeBron James coming back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the Warriors, but this Clippers team is not loaded like that. So this is the one that I think they throw everything at. And two, I assume Chris Paul is just going to be fine. COVID has affected everybody very differently in their returns. At the minimum, kind of taking a little bit of gas out of the tank. We have no concept of how he's going to be, but I do think it's interesting to try to reintegrate Chris Paul after 2 wins. He's pretty ball dominant. He likes to run the show, and they've just had 2 games where they could play a little bit more open, a little bit more free, and they're going to change that now. This is going to be Chris Paul steering the ship, driving the car, whatever metaphor you want to use. I think that could give them like a little bit of a hiccup out of the gate. It might be the shot of life they need. I'm just playing the other narrative here. I think while it's obviously better for the Suns to have Chris Paul back, it's always going to be better for you to have more talent than less. I think the reintegration for game 3 could just be a little bit of a hiccup for them. Clippers drop this or pick up this one, and then I expect the Suns to win the next 2. I do also, from the breakfast menu, have a bet out there. Suns to win the series 4-1.
Yeah, I heard that one. I heard that. A quarter unit or a quarter slab of bacon, one might say.
Yes, right? It is. It's a bite of bacon. We go with strips of bacon as units. That's the gimmick.
I like it. Yeah, check that out for sure. You guys already did it this morning, right? Is it up or are we in the editing process?
It is in editing process right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, be sure to check it out. Short form videos, good stuff between Ben and Josh. You'll enjoy it for sure, especially if you're a bettor. There's always DFS value to that stuff as well.
For sure.
At the captain spot, you've got, as we've done before, last game it was George, Booker, and Payne. And essentially, we talked about those three guys got to be in your lineup. I understand George didn't have the greatest game. Booker had an even less impressive game, but it's just kind of one of those things where you don't look back on those decisions and be like, man, I should have had no Devin Booker. But Cameron Payne was fantastic. I mean, he was really, really good. I know Eric took the over points prop on the Live Before Lock show. I took the over assists prop on the Live Before Lock show. I mean, he basically hit the over on everything, Josh, outside of, I don't even know if he had a rebound prop, but Cam Payne was awesome. How many minutes do you think Chris Paul and Cameron Payne get today? Like, does Cameron Payne get a little extra run based on how he's played?
That is a great question.
That's all I got, fella.
What?
No, I said all I have is great question.
Oh, sorry. I saw the super chat pop up at the same time, and I thought, like, when I looked at it, I saw the amount, and I thought you were reacting, and I was looking at the decimal wrong, and it was like two spots to the right or something, and I was like, oh my God. But so I gave him, and I want to make sure I get the number right. I gave Cam Payne 16 minutes. I have Chris Paul playing 34 at the point guard. Maybe he picks up an additional 2. I think that you can see him play upwards of 24. Basically, the minutes that Booker aren't on the floor to make up the shooting guard minutes, and the minutes that Chris Paul aren't on the floor to make up the point guard minutes. I have a hard time believing you can play him a ton here. Even at 20 minutes, I'm not like a huge fan. And I think the price is too high. He's basically priced as if he is still the starting point guard for the team. I'm apprehensive that he can be out on the floor a ton. I think they start to pick on him if he is.
Kyle with the super chat says, winning lineup on FanDuel for 100K, faded Booker last game. What is a viable contrarian approach for this game? Thanks for the super chat, man. And that's one of those things. Again, like you go into this, and Booker's a phenomenal play. I would have had a very tough time fading him with Chris Paul out. But that just speaks to what we've said so many times with like crazy things happen in some of these showdown slates. And the optimal lineup percentage on Devin Booker was probably extraordinarily high, Josh.
Yeah.
But there's always that it's never 100%. And it was a perfect example of why it's never 100%. And sometimes not even close to that. It would have probably been very close, but Devin Booker not in the optimal lineup on FanDuel.
And that's why we talk about it, where like I get these numbers and it's, 0.8, 0.85, or like 85% likelihood to be in there. You're going to get this pretty regularly where one of those guys doesn't show up because something breaks differently. It's not just a foregone conclusion that these guys are in there. We had this discussion about Jokic, whatever game part of that series it was, about being in the optimal. And was it a legitimate opportunity to fade him in that spot when your ownership gets to 98, 99%. Yeah, like I've got Devin Booker in the optimal lineup 70% of the time today. Most people are probably going to look at that and think like, oh no, it's Devin Booker. He's got to be in there. It's going to happen way more often than you ever think that it is.
30% is actually pretty high chance that he's not. It's just the way it is. Now, granted, Chris Paul is back. Let's talk captain spot with Paul George here, Devin Booker. Chris Paul making his return, DeAndre Ayton coming off a pretty strong game there with the game-winning field goal. And then even guys like Reggie Jackson, who continues to put up pretty respectable performances, has played 37, 38, 39, and 39 minutes over his last 4 games. I mean, this guy is a staple in the rotation right now, and Kawhi Leonard is sidelined. So how do we approach the captain spot and the MVP spots today?
Yeah, so Paul George is pulling the most captain ownership right now. That should not be terribly surprising. Who the hell else is it going to be? The thing is, I think it should be significantly higher. We've got it at 30% for public ownership. I have him in the optimal captain spot like 41% of the time. So I really like getting to Paul George there. The other 2 guys that are in double digits for captain ownership are Booker and Paul. Booker's, I think, is proper. I think Chris Paul at 14% ownership in the captain spot is insane. That is not a situation that I want to go. The guy that I like the most is Reggie Jackson, 7,800, projected for 7% ownership in the captain spot. I think that it should be 15. I think I mentioned him for game one, but I have no memory of the last 3 or 4 days. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But to me, if you're playing in a large field GPP, Reggie Jackson is the best captain option you could find.
Okay. I don't hate it. Look, now that Chris Paul returns, there's also a very good chance that, Booker's ceiling, not stealing his cap, but he definitely has less assist upside. We've seen him with good, ball dominant point guards. But I will say this much: Cam Payne, if you look at potential assists, Cam Payne actually was the one that did, and just watch the game, a lot of the ball handling anyway, even with Chris Paul out. So I definitely think it affects Booker. I'm not necessarily sure how much it affects him from one game to the next, though, Josh. I think it does. Chris Paul, clearly a better player. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But Cameron Payne, hey, what a backup to have on your roster when you need him. Which is really crazy because he was out of the league 18 months ago. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was terrible at times. Yeah. It was nuts. So I don't think that I think this is what you were going for. Booker's ceiling doesn't change because if Booker gets going, they're just going to keep giving him the ball. He's Devin Booker. He's that's why I retracted what I said. His median projection comes down a little bit because he's just going to have the ball a little bit less. Chris Paul's going to have it a little bit more. Potential assists are just going to go away a little bit. His usage rate goes down when Chris Paul is out there. So you're expecting less on a day-to-day basis, but nothing is stopping Devin Booker if he gets going. Chris Paul's not going to take it from him. He knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot. So it doesn't change the peak of Booker, but just in general, you're going to get a little bit less out of Booker on a game-to-game basis. We saw some value arise yesterday, and we harped about this a lot. Greg and I did, Ryan and I did, that there were going to be a lot of people out there that ignored the fact that late series rotations are going to be super condensed. And in a new series, you're going to see some of those bench players reemerge, re-enter the rotation. Bobby Portis being a prime example, right? That was a no-brainer to me. No brainer. Yep. There's no reason that he should get 0 minutes there. There's no reason you need to play Brook Lopez for 39, 40, none of that. Right. It didn't work out for him, but still, and it's Mike Budenholzer, who probably just cringing the whole time he's not playing anyone from his bench. That dude's going to win the finals and lose his job. It's just, so with that in mind, though, this is game 3. That was game 1. We have a decent idea of what we should be looking at here. The biggest question is, it's not hard to say Paul George makes for a great captain, and then you can plug in Chris Paul or Booker, or play Jackson in the utility or the captain spot. That's where it's easy. Being able to differentiate elsewhere, whether we're talking about some of these mid-range guys or some of these value options, how do we stand out and how do we make good lineups tonight with them? So I will say my optimal does have Paul George in the captain spot, as does my second, as does my third. But just because you are in the optimal lineup doesn't mean you are that's a great lineup to have in general, though it depends on who you're asking. The other options that you can get to for today are all really curious. And I think the Clippers side of this game is most curious because the health of some of these guys is what's really tripping me up. In my opinion, the way that I see this going, if everybody is healthy, is that Ivica Zubac, who played 30-plus minutes in Game 2, is going to see his minutes go back to what it looked like in the previous series, minimal, because they're going to go small with more Marcus Morris and significantly more Nick Batum, whose minutes have evaporated so far in this series. Why do you think that you're going to do that? So that is what I would expect now that Chris Paul is back, because we're going to see a lot more pick and roll. They don't want Ivica Zubac out there. If they go to the Marcus Morris, Nick Batum combination, they could switch everything, turns it into a much more isolation heavy series. And it worked for the Clippers. The problem now is that Marcus Morris's knee is very clearly not okay. He is not playing the same way that he was. And I'm starting to think that Nick Batum also has some sort of injury that we don't know about that is slowing him down, because his minutes are not what they were in that previous series. I think that they might have taken too much out of themselves in the previous series. And if that's the case,
they can't go to that switch everything scheme that they've had with Morris and with Batum. So Zubac is the guy right now that I'm paying closest attention to from a minutes or from an ownership perspective, because I think that the peaks and valleys are huge. I don't see much in the middle ground for him. He's either going for 30 minutes because they cannot go to Morris and Batum, or I think he's playing like 10 minutes because Nick Batum and Marcus Morris are both going to be up in the mid 30s, and they're going to try to switch everything and try to stop Chris Paul from being able to run any sort of pick and roll with Ayton.
Okay. All right. You really think Chris Paul is going to influence it that much that they take Zubac out?
I do. Because if Chris in a perfect world for them, Chris Paul is going to put Ivica Zubac in a pick and roll every single time down the floor. And Chris Paul is going to win that matchup regularly, no matter what the Clippers decide that they want to do. But if they're immediately switching it, Chris Paul is not going to get downhill fast enough at this point. So we're going to switch this from a heavy pick and roll scheme to a more isolation scheme. And in that case, that's when I start to think that Devin Booker's status for this game takes a bit of a rise, because he's going to be a better isolation scorer in that situation.
Yeah. And like you said, though, a lot of this depends on if Marcus Morris has any lateral movement whatsoever. I mean, if he can't move, it's not going to make a difference. Like, you're not going to want him out there.
I mean, I think that they're looking at a point now where they're attaching Marcus Morris to Ivica Zubac's minutes, because Morris doesn't have the ability to stop people from getting past him, and they need someone at the rim to make up for that. So I think we'll learn a lot about Morris's status for how many minutes he plays alongside Zubac. In general, it shouldn't be any, but now I think it has to be a lot. Are there any cheap guys here that are viable? You talked about Zubac, but DeMarcus Cousins had a really great game for a showdown, by showdown standards 2 games ago. Then he only played 4 minutes. We all knew that could happen, right? Like, we all know that a lot of these guys who are getting minutes in certain games might not play any minutes at all in the second one or the next one. Like, Rajon Rondo closed out game 2 or 1 and didn't close out game 2. Luke Kennard, as a matter of fact, played 19 minutes and 13 minutes to close out the game total, or in game 3. God, in game 2, sorry. So a lot of different things can happen. There's a lot of different ways that these rotations can go. Last game, it was Kennard who was fine. The game before that, it was Rajon Rondo and DeMarcus Cousins. Ty Lue's making it kind of difficult on us. And actually, Rondo was fine last game too. And Ty Lue is going to continue to do that. No matter what anybody thinks about Ty Lue as a coach. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Ty. We'll just go with Ty. The guy over this shoulder. Anyway, yeah, he's the one on the ground looking sad. He is fantastic at game-to-game adjustments. He has no qualms with blowing up whatever he did in the game before that and going to something different. He is one of the better coaches at game-to-game adjustments. Just look at the previous 2 series where they're down 2-0 and make wholesale changes. So I expect to see a lot of different stuff here. I would not be surprised if they try to go to that heavy switching system. I think we might see more Luke Kennard here. Wouldn't surprise me if we start to see a little bit less Rondo as the series goes on a little bit further. But I think they're starting to run out of tricks if everybody's starting to get dinged up. He's running out of legitimate options. It's not like he's going to be busting out Amir Coffey or some of the other idiots that are at Daniel Otoro. I can't even remember all the other guys that are at the end of the Clippers bench. I think he's running out of options now from a health perspective. And I think that the changes that he can make are limited in comparison to where they were before. Do you think the Suns are that much better than the Clippers? Yes. Yeah? Yeah. It's hard not to if they're favorites in LA in game 3. Sure. Who do you think wins this series if Kawhi Leonard's healthy? You think we go 6 or 7? If Kawhi Leonard were healthy at the start of this, if everybody was at full strength, I would have picked the Clippers to win this series. Okay. That's what I was curious about. Okay. Yeah. When push comes to shove, I am usually going to be taking the team that has the better player. Yeah. It's a good point. It's a fair point. It's a salient point. Demetrius Johnson. How about Rondo? Thanks for the super chat, by the way. How about Rondo at captain with CP3 back narrative? I wouldn't have a single lineup with Rondo at captain. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Look, Rondo could play 7 minutes today. And even if he does play 17 again,
It's going to be tough. You're going to hope for 20 out of him. It's probably not going to get you there.
If you want to pay down captain, I think the best option is Patrick Beverley at 3,200.
Okay. So let's hit the Awesemo Hall of Fame. We got a couple huge winners here. I would love to brag for you, show you guys what we're all about here at Awesemo. And then we'll wrap this up with a couple more spots and a little bit of strategy to wrap this up. Josh is going to help us get on the right foot as we're putting lineups together. And if you have that optimal lineup in the event that you've crunched it already, let's see where that stands early in the day. But first, let's go to it. The Hall of Fame segment. What is it? I'll tell you. You win an Awesemo Plus Platinum monthly plan, totally free. If you use the Awesemo avatar on any of these sites, finish top 3 in a contest with 5,000 or more entries. Sounds tough, right? But you're playing anyway. Why not give yourself a shot? And it could be the piggy bank. It doesn't matter. It could be a 5-cent, 25-cent entry. As long as you're up there, you don't have to be stretching the dollar in order to get a free month. Many different ways to do it. Go to awesemo.com/avatar, download the profile pic, follow the directions, and when you win, tweet your wins at Awesemo HOF. That's Awesemo HOF Hall of Fame. Include Josh and myself in the tweets as well, because we want to see people doing well. All right, let's do it. We've got the one at the top. It is Jordan Grubb with a 2,000, 1,200, and 550 win, all in the same day. That's a beautiful thing. Love to see that. Next up, Neil Orfield. God, this guy's always crushing. Millie Maker winner last year. And I love this tweet. For various reasons, I've slowed down on DFS the past week and almost took tonight off. Decided to throw 2 lineups into the FanDuel 550, 30 minutes before lock. Hand-built these 2, guided by the Awesemo.com top stacks tool and top pitchers tool. $62,000, Neil. Keep it coming, man. Keep loading up that bankroll. Fantastic stuff to see it. And our boy, Alex Baker. Now I see what DFS golfer has been talking about. Alex crushing these golf showdowns. 50K win from last week. Let's see what he can do this week. And then last one, Northman Progeny. Nice little 3rd place win there. And Josh, here's the thing, $60. But guess what? I'm assuming, since it's not NBA Showdown, that he didn't chop that. And he wins a free month of Awesemo Plus, which is valued even higher than the win. So that is a real win-win scenario right there.
Yeah, you got in the right tournament because that 3rd place just got you something pretty solid on the other end.
I love it.
And now you can do even more with our tools.
Yes, with amazing golf, MMA, NASCAR, whatever tools, everything. If they have contests, we got content over at awesemo.com. Check that out. Ooh. But congratulations to everyone that got your free month. If you're rocking that avatar and you hit one, hit us up at Awesemo HOF. We'd love to brag for you. Love to see this every day of the week. All right, so before we go, I should remind you, too, that you can listen to this show in podcast form wherever you are, even if you don't want to check it out on the YouTubes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. Hit it up, leave a rating, review with your email and your Twitter, too, if you want to get an opportunity every week to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Many different ways to do it. You don't have to place top 3 out of 5,000. There's plenty of ways to do it. All right, Josh, if we're building a lineup right now, let's say we're building a cash lineup, just to get an idea of where the chalk's going to be and what the most popular lineup's going to look like. What are we getting?
So my optimal captain is Paul George across the board. So I think that's, if we're playing cash, it's Paul George at captain pretty easily. The rest of my optimal reads as follows: Devin Booker, clearly, Reggie Jackson, Jay Crowder, Ivica Zubac, Patrick Beverley. And I think for the most part, I'm okay with that. I don't really think I'm missing out on anything. The price tag on Campaign makes him pretty difficult to, like, he's not someone that I think that you can go to in a cash game. Campaign is 7,600 tonight. Like Mikal Bridges is 7,400. Like, it's going to be really hard to not take Bridges' minutes over someone like Campaign, just in case somebody was curious. So I like my optimal in terms of a cash game scenario. Zubac might be a little bit more expensive than I would like. If you want to take a step back from that lineup, 1 point less, my second most optimal is once again Paul George at captain, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Reggie Jackson, Patrick Beverley, and Luke Kennard.
All right. I like it. I really don't mind them at all. I mean, they're the optimal for a reason, but sometimes even the optimals in these showdowns doesn't look very pretty.
No.
I got a couple props today that we'll throw out here, and go to oddshopper.com to check out props from across all books. I beg you, when you're doing this and you're looking at the best spots, you could find the prop that's like over 2.5 threes at minus 130. And then on another book, you could find it at like even money or even plus money. It happens. I swear it happens. At oddshopper.com, it's totally free. Just check, man. Look, see what I mean? Jordan brought it up on the screen. You got all of these here where sometimes they're all pretty close across the board, but there are other times where you just see wild disparities in props. You're not going to see big gaps in like game line spreads and totals and stuff like that. But some of these props, there are gaps. There are serious gaps. You can set your watch list and get notifications whenever a line moves the way you're looking. You can track your bets and you can search players by name. You got all types of futures for NFL. Check it out and take advantage of some of the opportunities and offers on there as these books just want you to. They want you over there right now, and they're giving away crazy free bets and bonuses and stuff just to sign up on their site so they can rip you away from somewhere else. Josh, I'm going. I got a couple today, and our player prop tool is totally free, so you can check that out as well. I know you have some concerns about Zubats, and I think the reasoning's sound, but I have a few less concerns there. I think they played a tight game last time out, and I think Ty Lue at least goes to stick with him early on. I like over 8.5 points on Zubats today. We haven't projected at 10.5. And then the other one I have that I'm going a little bit off the radar here and away from what we've got at Awesemo.com. I'm going Beverly under 7.5 points. He's not a guy, and I'm assuming you actually have him projected for more than 7.5, but the thing for me is I'm not convinced the minutes are going to be there for him. Okay. You know, we've seen him play very his minutes have been very erratic throughout the entire postseason. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that he plays like 20 minutes today. He's gone over 7 points in one game all postseason, and he's just a super low volume shooter that never gets to the free throw line. I'm okay shorting the points prop on Patrick Beverly today. You got anything good?
Well, I'm with you on the Zubac prop. It's part of the breakfast menu for us. It's part of Ben's side of No House Advantage as well. So check that out on the breakfast menu. So I would be taking the over on Zubac, but I would be dubious at least a little bit. The Beverly one, I have him projected for 8 points. So I wouldn't really be touching it from a over-under perspective. I think that line is pretty efficient. What I do actually have for Beverly, though, is one of my bets on the card. I'm going to give you guys the goods once again. I took Beverly as one of my bets over 1.5 3-pointers made because it was like plus 180.
Oh, so you just like the plus money on that. Okay.
Yeah. I have him projected for 1.4 made threes and 3.8 attempts. So I was just barely under the line, but I'm also getting a significant bump above that at plus 180. So I actually have a little bit of weight behind Patrick Beverly right now. So I can't go with you on that one, but I agree with like your logic behind it.
So with those implied odds at plus 180, he needs to do that basically more than 36% of the time. You got implied odds of 36%. I don't think that's crazy if you're getting him in the starter and if you get the minutes that you think, that's not insane. Can he do that more than 36% of the time? I think so.
Yeah. Look, I mean, even if we just say that he's like a 36% 3-point shooter, if he takes 3, you're pretty much there already. And I have him projected to take more than 3.
Right. And if that's the case, we're a little bit different there, but I can understand it, especially given that you're not hitting that at like minus 110 or,
Exactly.
That'd be a lot. I wouldn't feel nearly as good about that on a low volume shooter.
No.
All right, man. Well, we've come to the end of the road for another day of the strategy show presented by No House Advantage. You guys have been great as always. Appreciate you hanging out. It's good to have Josh back in action. He'll be here tomorrow with Eitan Shander, who just had a little baby boy. So hit him with your congrats as well. He's a first-time dad. Oh, man. He's in for it. He's fucking in for it. But
can't relate.
I can say it'll be a joy, and send him your congratulations if you feel like it over on Twitter. Follow Josh at Josh Engleman, myself at Laffy_D, and head over to Awesemo.com. You decide to sign up, be sure to join the Slack chat, get in on the community and the premium Slack chat where you have office hours with all of our pros answering your questions, helping you out. That's just a little perk on top of all of the tools we have that are built by the #1 ranked DFS player, Alex Baker himself. But anyway, guys, hit that thumbs up on your way out the door. Subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on the strategy show. I won't. He will. So I'll say it now. Have a great weekend. Good luck tonight, and I'll see you back here on Monday. Hit me, son.